Welcome to Gracefully Graying. I am your host, Attorney Henry Gornbein. Today, Gracefully Graying, I am very pleased to welcome as my guest Michelle Miller of Michigan G.R.and.M.A. Michelle, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Henry.
First of all, I want you to tell us about your background.
So I have a pretty unique background to be working with seniors. I studied engineering and I did that for a while. I spent some time in the pharmaceutical industry, but eventually my family had a situation that many families face, and that is we needed to help care for grandma. So my entire family helped support my aunt and uncle who moved my grandma into their home. And I was part of that caregiving team for about 6 months or so. And then I was eventually recruited to work in the senior living industry. So I had the opportunity of working in about a dozen different types of senior living communities: independent living, assisted living, memory care. I spent a year working in hospice, so I got to know nursing homes and group homes. And it was about 5 years ago that I decided to open my own business called Michigan G.R.and.M.A, where I can help families navigate senior living.
Michelle, what prompted you to start Michigan G.R.and.M.A?
So, as I mentioned, I worked in the industry. I worked inside independent livings, assisted livings, memory cares. And what I found was that there was a very small percentage of people that would come on tours or come and meet with me that I could actually help. And so many families were left without really any direction and support. And I felt like they really needed a consultant, a guide, if you will, to help them know how to navigate and find the solution faster.
Michelle, tell us about dementia care.
Well, effective dementia care should enhance the quality of life, not just for the person that lives with dementia, but also all of the people that love and care and support that person around them. So at minimum, including family, friends. It was just yesterday that I met a woman with dementia and her dear friend of decades. They were hanging out together and she lit up to see her good friend coming to visit. So family, friends, and healthcare professional, doctors at minimum, but realizing that there's other support out there. The Alzheimer's organization does lots to help support families with support groups and all sorts of education. There are in local communities, there are now, dementia friendly movies at the local movie theater. I encourage families to go out and, do some of these things together to help find others. And so you don't feel like you're on an island going through dementia.
How does one care for someone with dementia?
That is a really good question. There's lots of, we could be here for hours talking about that, but I really want to get to two things, if I can, leave your listeners with these
Sure.
two things to do. One, once your family member is diagnosed, normally they'll do some sort of cognitive testing. And so long as the doctor supports it, getting that cognitive testing done once a year so that you understand if they're declining. You see, a lot of people don't realize that someone with dementia who was a doctor or a professor, business owner, whomever they were, they're still that person, very intelligent, and they have coping mechanisms. So they're really good at hiding what they're struggling with And I promise you, they've known for a very long time that they're having cognitive decline. By the time they get diagnosed, it's probably been several years that they've been struggling. So since you can't visually see someone declining with dementia, like there's not like a scar on their face or something like that, getting that cognitive testing done each year will let you know that life's gotten a little harder and they might need some more support. So that's one. And then the second thing, if I can make the recommendation, is get some training. So Teepa Snow is someone that you could watch YouTube videos on. David Troxel wrote the book with Virginia Bell called The Best Friends Approach. And it's really a very simple way to help support your family or friend through a very difficult illness. So get trained.
When is it time to consider moving someone with dementia to assisted living or memory care?
Well, number one, if there's a hospitalization, that should be a major red flag to at least evaluate and think about it. But absolutely, if a doctor or the hospital is telling you it's time for 24/7 support or it's time to move, that is not something they do very lightly. And so I would absolutely recommend heeding that advice at that exact moment. But other things that you can be on the lookout for are safety concerns. So frequent falls or having, your family members struggling to find their way home. So, let's say they have a local bushes down the street and all of a sudden they can't find their way back home. That would be a major red flag that something is really, really wrong. Declining health overall. So maybe your family member was getting some in-home care once or twice a week, but now they need help every single day. That is not just expensive, but that should be an alert to say, maybe it's time to evaluate doing this differently. But I also just want to mention that trying to improve the quality of life for someone that lives with dementia is really important. And so there can be a need for specialized care. And that is the reason assisted livings and memory cares, that they're there to also not just provide the care, but also improve quality of life. So those can be some things to be on the lookout for.
Michelle, what are the 3 essential questions that families need to consider when moving their loved one to a memory care?
So the absolute most basic would be understanding the finances, understanding what kind of care support someone needs, and then the location. So location's usually the easiest. Trying to understand your family members' finances can be a struggle. So potentially reaching out to their, financial advisor or sitting down with them and going through the finances and then talking to someone about the expense involved with moving or getting in-home care so that you can make appropriate plans. But understanding what kind of care support someone needs, I really recommend getting a professional involved, whether that's a medical professional or someone that does what I do, where we can come in, I do a free assessment and can give really a blueprint of this is the kind of care and support your family member needs right now, and then explore options for how to accomplish that.
And, one thing that's critical, it seems, costs, and I'm fairly familiar, and I think the costs can range anywhere from $4,000 or $5,000 a month to well over $10,000 a month. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes. Yeah, you got it really close. The good thing to know is that if you don't have the finances to afford care. There are more and more Medicaid style programs, or the My Choice waiver. There are more and more programs to afford care.
These are important points. You've covered a fair amount of territory. Let me ask you, what do you find most rewarding about your work? And it's hard. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it's rewarding because you're helping people make difficult decisions in their lives and help people in transitioning from one phase of life or living to another. But what do you find most rewarding?
It has to be the people. I mean, the people, that is the reason why I stayed in this industry. I meet the most interesting people. And, I have to say, part of it was how I was raised in a multi-generational family that absolutely respected seniors, right? We were always taught that growing up, but we not only were taught to respect them. In my family, we were taught to laugh with them and be silly with them. And so it's fun. It could be fun. Yes, it's stressful, but if you don't dance in the rain, you have to dance through the storms of life, right? If you don't dance in the rain, then every day is miserable. It was about a week ago that I think I met the youngest 80-something-year-old female I've ever met in a hospital. So I was peeking through the window and I see someone doing leg lifts in the hospital bed. And I mean, it was a shocking sight. I went in and this adorable woman was showing me that she could do the limbo, like literally bend her body almost completely backwards to the point where I was like, no, please don't do that. If you fall while I'm in here, that'll be really bad. But yeah, she was struggling a little bit cognitively, and the doctors were giving her the advice. She was her own decision maker to move to an assisted living. And she had it in her head, no, I want to go to a regular apartment. I want to move in with my family members. And she had a whole plan about her, but, the doctors were really encouraging her. And, she had several hospitalizations. And so, it kind of came down to not like she was forced into making this decision, but had she made the decision to move to just a regular independent apartment and then have more hospitalizations, well, at some point in time, the doctors are going to say, maybe we need to get you a guardian to make safe decisions because you can't. And so it was really wonderful with her. We met several times and spent a long time together going through her options, which included, yeah, you can go get a regular apartment if that's what you want to do. This is what doctors are advising. And so eventually I was able to answer all of her questions and get her more comfortable with the idea of at least attempting and trying to go to an assisted living. And I mean, it doesn't get old to see someone that is, I'm going to get emotional here, someone that's lived on the planet for over 80 years and has probably experienced lots of scary things, but this is terrifying. And then I can provide her some peace and comfort through this. I love it.
It shows. Clearly, you have a very important job. What reminds me, my stepmother at 97 went to Antarctica.
Okay.
And she was still sharp until she passed away at 100.
Wow.
She was still driving until about 98 or 99. Used to teach and play bridge regularly until 98 or 99.
Those are good genes.
Yeah. And so, yes, everyone has a story to tell. What frustrations do you find about your work?
Frustration, being frustrated in life, that's just being human, right? I can get some very complex cases There are times where I don't know the solution, quite honestly, and I'm working on a team with lots of other very intelligent people that have been in the industry as long as I have, or even longer. But here's kind of what I've found. A lot of the people in this industry were called to it. In fact, the majority, I would say, were called to it. They have all sorts of very unique backgrounds, and then they find themselves in this industry and really wanting to make a difference. And when I get a very frustrating case that I cannot find a solution for, I just start pick up the phone, calling everyone I know, going over the situation. What should I do? What should I do? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? And I approach every problem with every problem has a solution. We just need to figure out what that is. And I would say that gets me through like 99% of the frustrating situations.
I love your attitude, Michelle.
Ah,
Are there any final thoughts that you would like to share with us and our viewers?
I guess the most important thing to me to leave everyone with about dementia um, is that the most important thing is to preserve someone's dignity. And so, whatever that means to you for them is paramount.
Dignity is important, and yes, uh, well said. I
Thank
know
you.
there's a lot that we haven't covered, but you've really explored a lot of important issues for our viewers, and I really thank you for being my guest on Gracefully Gray. I want to thank our viewers for watching Gracefully Graying, and of course, I want to thank our sponsors and Blue Cable for making Gracefully Gray. Michelle Miller, thank you so much. Michigan G.R.and.M.A, thank you so much for being my guest.
Yeah, thank you so much, Henry. I really appreciate this too.